All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is Saira Mujtaba. The headlines. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill to be taken up for consideration and passing in Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha to take up Juvenile Justice Amendment Bill today. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi today to also call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to participate in Shanghai Cooperation Organization's Defence Ministers Meet in Tajikistan. Basavaraj Bommai to be sworn in as the new Chief Minister of Karnataka this morning. Rakesh Asthana appointed as New Delhi Police Commissioner. Country's COVID vaccination coverage crosses 44 crore 58 lakh mark. Recovery rate stands at 97.4%. International Monetary Fund projects India's growth rate at 9.5% for current fiscal year. World Nature Conservation Day is being celebrated today. In women's hockey, India lose to Great Britain 1-4 in Pool A group match at Tokyo Olympics. In badminton, PV Sindhu beats Hong Kong's Xuing Yang Yi to reach pre-quarterfinals of women's singles. And in cricket, India to take on Sri Lanka in second T20 international match in Colombo tonight. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is going on, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also to help others to get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2021 is likely to be taken up for consideration and passing in Lok Sabha today. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Ordinance 2021 was promulgated by President Ramnath Kovind on 4th of April to offer an alternate bankruptcy resolution scheme for small businesses. The code provides a time-bound process for resolving the insolvency of corporate debtors called the Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process. Rajya Sabha is likely to take up the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Amendment Bill 2021 for consideration and passing. The bill provides that instead of a civil court, the district magistrate will issue adoption orders of a child. The issues related to Pegasus snooping, farm laws and others continued to mar the proceedings in both the Houses of Parliament yesterday. For the 7th consecutive day of the monsoon session, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha could not transact any substantial business, barring passage of a few bills amid din and the discussion on COVID situation in Upper House. Yesterday, after facing 9 adjournments, Lok Sabha was adjourned for the day, while the Rajya Sabha witnessed 4 adjournments before it was adjourned for the day. When the Lok Sabha met after the 9th adjournment at 4:30 p.m., members from the Congress, DMK, TMC and other opposition parties again trooped into the well, raising slogans against the government over Pegasus snooping, farm laws and other issues. The presiding officer tried to run the House and repeatedly urged the protecting members to return to their seats, but they did not pay heed. This forced the adjournment of the House for the day. Earlier, Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs Arjun Ram Meghwal appealed to the agitating members to allow the House to function and raise their issues in a proper manner. The scene was no different in the Rajya Sabha. Due to the unrelenting approach of the opposition members, the presiding officer adjourned the House for the day.
The Union Health Ministry has said that at present there are no recommendations on COVID-19 vaccine booster dose from the World Health Organization. The ministry said the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, NTAGI, and National Expert Group on Vaccine Administration for COVID, NEGVAC, are deliberating and considering scientific evidences related to dose schedule of COVID-19 vaccines. In a written reply to a question in the Rajya Sabha, Minister of State for Health Dr. Bharati Pawar said, so far no specific recommendations regarding COVID vaccine booster dose has been made by NTAGI or NEGVAC. Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday asked BJP MPs to work to ensure that everyone becomes a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which is being celebrated to mark the 75th Independence Day of India. Briefing the media after the BJP Parliamentary Party meeting, Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs Arjun Ram Meghwal informed that the Prime Minister said an action plan must be created for the next 25 years.
Mr. Basav Raj Bommai will be sworn in as the new Chief Minister of Karnataka this morning. Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan yesterday announced after a state legislative party meeting that BJP leader Bommai has been elected as the SLP leader. He will be the successor of B.S. Yediyurappa, who had stepped down due to age factor. After being elected the new leader, Bommai met Governor Thawarchand Gehlot. The governor invited the new leader to take oaths of office today. He alone will be sworn in this time. More from our correspondent.
Basuraj Bommai is a three-time MLA from Shigaon in Haveri district in North Karnataka and was the Home Minister and Parliamentary Affairs Minister in the Yediyurappa cabinet. Considered a close confidant of Yediyurappa, Bommai joined BJP in 2008 and served as Water Resources Minister between 2008 and 2013. A mechanical engineer, Bommai is son of former Chief Minister S.R. Bommai, who was in office between 1988 and 1989. After his selection as Legislative Party leader, Basuraj Bommai said that he will work under the guidance of outgoing Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa and work towards poverty alleviation. Sudhindra, AIR News, Bengaluru.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has reached Tajikistan's capital Dushanbe to participate in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's Defence Ministers Meet. The main engagement today includes a joint call on by SCO defence ministers with Tajikistan's President Emomali Rahman. In the annual meeting, defence cooperation issues among SCO member states are discussed, and a communique is expected to be issued after the deliberations. Mr. Singh will address the meeting today. During his visit to Dushanbe, he is also expected to meet his Tajik counterpart, Colonel General Sherali Mirzo, to discuss bilateral issues and other issues of mutual interest. It may be recalled that Tajikistan is chairing the SCO this year and hosting a series of ministerial and official level meetings. SCO as a grouping occupies 60% of the Eurasian continent, which is over 34 million square kilometers. SCO countries is having a population of over 3 billion, that is almost half of the world's population.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi today. Both sides will review the robust and multifaceted India-U.S. bilateral relations and potential for consolidating them further. Discussions will focus on regional and global issues of mutual interest, including recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indo-Pacific region, Afghanistan, and cooperation in the United Nations. Secretary Blinken arrived in New Delhi last evening on a two-day visit to India. This is his first visit to India after assuming charge as U.S. Secretary of State. He will also call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He will also meet National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. The U.S. Secretary of State's visit is an opportunity to continue the high-level bilateral dialogue and bolster the India-U.S. global strategic partnership. Both sides will review the robust and multifaceted India-U.S. bilateral relations and potential for consolidating them further. Our correspondent has filed this report.
Secretary Blinken's visit is an opportunity to further consolidate bilateral cooperation across a vast agenda. Issues like augmenting trade and investment and tapping opportunities in healthcare, education, digital domain, innovation and security will be important elements of the conversation. In the defense domain, both sides are expected to explore ways and means to deepen their collaboration. This will cover policy exchanges, exercises, and defense transfers and technologies. Discussions will cover containment of COVID-19 and COVID-19 recovery efforts. India is likely to press for gradual resumption of international travel while maintaining health protocols, especially easing mobility of students, professionals, business travelers, family reunions, and humanitarian cases. Suparna Sekya, AIR News, Delhi.
Director General of Border Security Force Rakesh Asthana has been appointed as Commissioner of Delhi Police. He is a 1984 batch Indian Police Service officer from Gujarat cadre. Mr. Asthana was appointed as Delhi Police Chief 3 days before he was to superannuate. Mr. S.S. Deswal, Director General of Indo-Tibetan Border Police, will hold additional charge of the post of DG BSF. The government had given additional charge of Delhi Police to Balaji Srivastav after the retirement of S.N. Srivastav on the 30th of last month. You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill to be taken up for consideration and passing in Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha to take up Juvenile Justice Amendment Bill today. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi today, to also call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to participate in Shanghai Cooperation Organization's Defence Ministers meet in Tajikistan. Basavaraj Bommai to be sworn in as new Chief Minister of Karnataka this morning. Rakesh Asthana appointed as new Delhi Police Commissioner. Country's COVID vaccination coverage crosses 44 crore 58 lakh mark. Recovery rate stands at 97.4%. International Monetary Fund projects India's growth rate at 9.5% for current fiscal year. World Nature Conservation Day is being celebrated today. In women's hockey, India lose to Great Britain 1-4 in Pool A group match in Tokyo Olympics, while in badminton, PV Sindhu beats Hong Kong's Shang Yang-yi to reach pre-quarterfinals of women's singles. And in cricket, India to take on Sri Lanka in second T20 international match in Colombo tonight. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
India's cumulative COVID vaccination coverage has surpassed 44 crore 58 lakh so far. The Union Health Ministry said more than 36 lakh 87,000 vaccine doses have been administered yesterday. The new phase of universalization of COVID-19 vaccination commenced from the 21st of last month. The government has said the daily new COVID-19 cases continued to show a decline during the second wave in the country. Joint Secretary in the Health and Family Welfare Ministry, Love Agarwal, said India is registering a significant decline in active caseload and currently it is around 3,98,000. He said the country is also witnessing a consistent increase in recovery rate, which is 97.4%. In the national capital Delhi, a total of 77 new cases of coronavirus infection were reported yesterday. The Delhi government said 42 people recovered from the infection and 2 deaths were reported in the city. Presently, the total number of active cases of COVID-19 in the national capital is 570. A total of 57,382 beneficiaries were inoculated for COVID-19 in the last 24 hours in Delhi. With this, over 97,25,000 beneficiaries have been vaccinated so far.
Tamil Nadu registered 1,767 COVID cases in the last 24 hours. The State Health Department said that a total of 29 deaths were recorded. 2,312 patients recovered from the pandemic and were discharged from the hospitals. The total number of active cases was 22,188. A total of 1,43,310 samples were tested through RT-PCR. Telangana reported 645 fresh COVID cases in the last 24 hours. The state government, in its COVID bulletin, stated that currently the state has 9,200 active cases. The number of COVID cases reported so far in the state has gone up to over 6,42,000. While the recovery rate was reported at 97.97%, 729 more people recovered from the disease. This took the total recoveries in the state to over 6,29,000.
The International Monetary Fund has projected India's growth rate at 9.5% for the current fiscal year. For the next financial year 2022-23, IMF expects economic growth of 8.5%, larger than the 6.9% it had projected in April. forecast for the current year 2021-22 is lower than the 12.5% growth in GDP that IMF had projected in April before the second wave of COVID-19 took a grip. In its latest World Economic Outlook, the IMF said growth prospects in India have been downgraded following the severe second COVID wave during March to May and expected slow recovery in confidence from that setback. India's economy is gradually recovering from a deep contraction in the fiscal year ended 31st of March this year, 7.3%, and a subsequent severe second wave of COVID-19. However, India's growth prospects for financial year 2022 remains higher than all other major economies. China's GDP is projected to grow at 8.1% and the US at 7%. Overall, the global economy is projected to grow 6% in 2021 and 4.9% in 2022. The 2021 global growth forecast is unchanged from the April update but with offsetting revisions.
Today is World Nature Conservation Day. It acknowledges that a healthy environment is the foundation for a stable and healthy human society, and to ensure the well-being of present and future generations, we all must participate to protect, conserve, and sustainably manage our natural resources. World Nature Conservation Day is celebrated on 28th July annually. A report.
The earth is supplied with a limited amount of properties that we all rely upon each day, like water, air, soil, and trees. World Conservation Day is celebrated to increase awareness about the best practices to protect our natural resources, to conserve the animals and trees that are on the verge of going extinct from the natural environment of the earth. On this day, we must introspect as a species on how humans are exploiting nature and take steps to conserve it. The balance in the natural beauty of the earth can be maintained by preserving various components of nature: water, air, soil, energy, vegetation, minerals, fauna, and many more. Aarti Rana, News Desk.
Films Division will be screening documentary films today that underline the inseparable relationship between nature and human beings, marking the World Nature Conservation Day. The films are being streamed for 24 hours on Films Division website and its YouTube channel.
India's women power is on display at the Olympic Games in Tokyo today. Indian women athletes will be seen in action throughout the day in the fields of hockey, archery, badminton and boxing. In badminton, India's medal hopeful and Rio silver medalist PV Sindhu has stormed into the pre-quarterfinals of women's singles after defeating Hong Kong's Chen Nian 21-9, 21-16 in the final Group J match. In men's singles, B. Sai Praneeth will clash with Mark Kaljau of Netherlands in Group D match in the afternoon at 2:30 p.m. In archery, Tarundeep Rai has won against Ukraine's Oleksiy Hunbin 6-4 in the men's individual event. Next in action will be Praveen Chadav, who will meet Galsen Bazarafov of Russian Olympic Committee at 12:30 p.m. in the same event. In women's section, world number 1 archer Deepika Kumari will begin her individual campaign against Bhutan's Karma at 2:14 p.m. In women's hockey, India lost to defending champions Great Britain 1-4 in their third Pool A clash. Sharmila Devi scored the lone goal for India. In boxing, Pooja Rani will play against Ichrak Chaib in round of 16 of women's middleweight at 2:33 p.m. Meanwhile, it was a mixed day for India in the Tokyo Olympic Games yesterday. Here are some of the highlights of Indian contingent's performance at the 32nd Summer Olympics. A report.
At the mega quadrennial event, boxing and hockey brought some cheer for the fans in the otherwise disappointing day. While shooting continued to produce another dismal performance, table tennis and badminton did not meet the expectations. In boxing, Lavlina Borghine defeated Germany's Nadine Apitz by split decision in the closely fought round of 16 bout in women's welterweight 64 to 69 kilogram event. She will face former world champion Nain Chen Chan of Chinese Taipei in the quarterfinals on Friday. In men's hockey, India registered their second victory by putting in a solid performance to beat Spain 3-0 in the Pool A clash. With the win, Indian team has climbed up to second position in Pool A with 6 points. Major heartbreak came in the form of India's shooting contingent as promising mixed doubles duo of Saurabh Chaudhary and Manu Bhakar failed to qualify for the middle round in the 10-meter air pistol event. Team of Yashaswini Deswal and Abhishek Verma were also knocked out after finishing at the 17th spot in the stage 1. The two pairs of Elavinil Villarivan and Divyansh Singh Pawar and Anjum Modgil and Deepak Kumar also could not cross the qualification round of 10-meter air rifle mixed team event. In badminton, pair of Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty missed the quarterfinal berth in men's doubles despite beating Great Britain in their final group match due to differences in game scores. In table tennis, Achant Sharat Kamal lost to reigning champion Ma Long of China after an intense battle. In sailing, Vishnu Sarvanan climbed up 2 places to 22nd position in overall standing in the laser standard competition after finishing on the 12th spot in the 6th race of men's one-person dinghy. However, the first Indian woman sailor to qualify for the Olympics, Netra Kumanan, slipped to the 33rd position in overall standings after ending on 38th spot in 6th race of laser radial event. Varun Thakkar and his partner KC Ganpati began their campaign in the men's 2-member skiff 49er class. In the only race of the day, the Indian pair finished a lowly 18th among the 19 competing pairs. In tennis, India's campaign ended as Sania Mirza and Sumit Nagal could not make the cut for the mixed doubles event due to their low combined ranking of 153. Japan currently leads the medal tally with 18 medals, including 10 gold, followed by United States on 2nd and China on 3rd position. Swati Rakheja, AIR News.
In cricket, the second T20 international between India and Sri Lanka, scheduled to be played last night in Colombo, was postponed by a day after Indian all-rounder Krunal Pandya tested positive for COVID-19. The entire Team India is undergoing RT-PCR tests today to ascertain any further outbreak in the squad. The 8 members identified as close contacts are said to include Suryakumar Yadav and Prithvi Shaw, who are due to travel to England for next month's test series. Since the close contacts are mostly players, India might have to field a depleted side. The second T20 international will be played today, while the third and final encounter will take place tomorrow. The match will start at 8 p.m. Within a week of Maharashtra's one of the worst ever floods, which has left 209 people dead and nearly 4.5 lakh affected, the state machinery is leaving no stone unturned to reinstate normalcy in the affected regions. Energy Minister Dr. Nitin Raut yesterday visited places in Raigad district of Konkan region, which is one of the worst affected places by the floods, with 95 deaths alone. More details from our correspondent.
During his visit to Raigad district, Dr. Raut inspected the flood-affected areas at Pan, Mahar, Nagothane and the damage done to the electricity distribution system in this region. He directed the authorities to complete the work of reinstalling the power system in Mahar Taluka as soon as possible. He inspected the tower of the high-pressure channel which fell due to the floodwater of Savitri River at Mahar. The power supply to the village in Mahar Taluka has been disrupted. However, due to the untiring efforts of the officers and the employees, 22 kV was supplied from MSEDCL Goregaon substation. The Energy Minister also inspected the power outages in Rajawadi and Vireshwar villages. Devpura Bhattacharji, AIR News, Mumbai.
Now let us take a look at the weather update for today. National capital Delhi is likely to have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. Temperature will hover between 25 and 28 degrees Celsius. Mumbai is also expected to have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. Temperature was 26 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 32 degrees. Chennai is likely to have generally cloudy sky with temperature varying between 26 and 36 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Srinagar may have thunderstorm with rain. Temperature will hover between 22 and 28 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain with temperature varying between 25 to 29 degrees Celsius. Leh is expected to have generally cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm. Gilgit will have generally cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm with temperature hovering between 20 and 37 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad will have generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Minimum temperature was 25 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 30 degrees. Dehradun will have generally cloudy sky with a few spells of rain or thunder showers. Shimla is expected to have thunderstorm with rain with temperature varying between 15 and 22 degrees Celsius. Chandigarh will see generally cloudy sky with possibility of development of thunder or lightning. Temperature is likely to hover between 27 and 30 degrees Celsius. Ahmedabad will have generally cloudy sky with light rain. In Guwahati, Imphal, Shillong and Aizawl, it will have generally cloudy sky with a few spells of rain or thunderstorm. In Guwahati, the minimum temperature was 28 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be 36 degrees. Imphal noted a minimum temperature of 22 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 31 degrees. In Shillong, temperature will hover between 19 and 27 degrees Celsius. In Aizawl, the minimum temperature was 20 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 27 degrees. Kohima will have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain, with temperature moving from a minimum of 19 to a maximum of around 28 degrees Celsius, while Agartala is expected to have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Temperature will hover between 26 and 30 degrees Celsius. Itanagar and Gangtok will experience generally cloudy sky with a few spells of rain or thunder showers. In Itanagar, temperature will hover between 23 and 33 degrees Celsius. In Gangtok, temperature will hover between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius. Port Blair is expected to have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Vishakhapatnam will have generally cloudy sky with light rain and temperature varying between 28 and 34 degrees Celsius. Raipur will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Diu is expected to have generally cloudy sky with temperature moving from 26 to 29 degrees Celsius. And Ranchi will have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. City registered a minimum temperature of 23 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 29 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. All the dailies have covered the news on the new CM of Karnataka. The Asian Age writes, Basavaraj Bommai, new Karnataka CM, oath today. The Hindu notes, jabs for children as early as August. A Lancet study based on results on immunization with Pfizer and AstraZeneca jabs says antibody weakens 2-3 months after both doses, reports the Pioneer, indicating a booster dose is going to be the next in thing. The Tribune quotes the government asking the states, give data on oxygen deaths before Parliament session ends. 20 schools of specialized excellence to start on Independence Day in Delhi, 100 to be set up across city in 2 years, reports the Times of India. To improve the health of the telecom sector, the government is considering a slew of measures. The Economic Times writes, government mulling steps to boost telecom health. Delhi steps in, Assam talks SC, Mizoram for peaceful resolution, observes the Indian Express. And finally, a front-page box item in Hindustan Times reports about UNESCO declaring a Harappan city, Dholvira in Gujarat, a World Heritage Site.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill to be taken up for consideration and passing in Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha to take up Juvenile Justice Amendment Bill today. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi today to also call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to participate in Shanghai Cooperation Organization's Defence Ministers Meet in Tajikistan. Basavaraj Bommai to be sworn in as new Chief Minister of Karnataka this morning. Rakesh Asthana appointed as new Delhi Police Commissioner. Country's COVID vaccination coverage crosses 44 crore 58 lakh mark. Recovery rate stands at 97.4%. International Monetary Fund projects India's growth rate at 9.5% for current fiscal year. World Nature Conservation Day is being celebrated today. In women's hockey, India lose to Great Britain 1-4 in Pool A group match in Tokyo Olympics. In badminton, PV Sindhu beats Hong Kong's Xuan Nyang Yi to reach pre-quarterfinals of women's singles. And in cricket, India to take on Sri Lanka in second T20 international match in Colombo tonight. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.